Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Cecily, as always. So I've been going through a bit of a rough patch over the past few days. I've had just incredible amounts of nausea and some distension and discomfort, but it's been a little bit worse than usual. So it got me thinking about a topic that I really wanted to discuss with you all because I feel like I cannot be the only one who goes through this. I have some food anxiety because of my problems with digestion. I'm positive that this has to be something that affects a lot of people with other gastrointestinal diseases. I just wanted to vent a little bit about it with you guys. So my food anxiety started probably when I was about 8. Whenever I ate as a kid, I would have to think of it as sort of like an opportunity cost measure. Like, okay, eating this is going to be enjoyable for me, and I'm going to really love having this pizza, and it's going to be fun, and everyone else at the party is eating it, but I know it's going to make me feel terrible later, and I have to just live with that. And I don't remember talking to a lot of people about it when I was young because it seemed kind of normal to me. I thought everyone hurt after they ate for a really long time before I started to figure out that that's not normal for people. Around 12, I started to talk to my doctors about really like the pain that I was getting when I would eat. It would get worse and worse as I got older. Well, my doctors have really tried, I know they have over the past few years, to like give me good eating guidelines. Like, okay, you should have this much to eat in a day, and you should eat with this many hours in between each meal, and you should eat portions that are only the size of like, that could fit in your hand, the palm of your hand, and all these tips that are supposed to make me, I don't know, safe, but I somehow still, at the end of the day, don't feel safe when I put food in my mouth. And specifically yesterday, I was going through a really bad bout of nausea, and I remember feeling when I was sitting down trying to just get over it, like, I really regret eating. Why are you so silly to eat like that, you know? And then I caught myself and I was like, Cecily, you're not silly to eat. It's not wrong to want to eat. I know, like, I try to pattern that thought of like, it's okay to eat a lot, but somehow still I end up blaming myself, and I end up having a lot of guilt associated with eating when I have pain after I eat. And I'm like, well, none of this would have happened if you hadn't eaten, now would it have? And I just have to stop thinking that way because it's not really productive, is it? Everyone has to eat at least some amount of food every day, and it's not wrong to want to eat. It's probably one of the most human things. One of the most integral parts of the human experience is wanting to eat and seeking nourishment. Still, at the end of the day, it's hard to reconcile that I will always have a really uncomfortable relationship with food. I've seen therapists and I've talked to doctors about this. You know, a lot of them want to just put it in, well, you're a girl category. I find that really insulting. They're like, well, a lot of girls feel that way about eating. No, they don't. No, they don't. That's not what this is. It's, I literally cannot look at food without thinking immediately, what will it do in my GI? How will it inflame me? How will it make me uncomfortable? And how easy will it be for me to get rid of that food once I've eaten it? All of those thought processes are something that I've not met a lot of people with. And it's not just because I'm a girl, and it's not just because I grew up in a Western society where women are expected to fit a certain physical mold. It's almost like, okay, well, you're a woman, so if you have a problem with eating, that's normal. First of all, it shouldn't be normal for anyone to have food anxiety or anyone to have a problem or a disordered relationship with food. That's not normal. A doctor should never look at that, especially a psychologist or a psychiatrist should never look at that as like, well, that's sort of a societal norm for people. No, it's not, or it shouldn't be. And we shouldn't just dismiss it as, well, you know, you're just a nervous, flighty girl. I do not have like crippling anxiety in other aspects of my life. I really feel for those who do. I know people with severe anxiety. I'm not one of those cases. But when it comes to food, I feel extremely anxious and I feel extremely sad sometimes that I can't eat the things I used to love. I'm sure that a lot of the people that watch this channel or may find my videos also suffer from some sort of unbalanced relationship with food. I would never wish what I have on anyone, not even my worst enemy. I wouldn't wish my pain on anyone. But sometimes I do feel like it would be productive if my doctors had even one iota of an idea of how I feel, emotionally and physically, but especially physically, because that's really what affects my emotions. I think psychologists, psychiatrists, and even just medical doctors tend to get this idea that, well, what's up here, affects what's in your stomach and what's going on in your gastrointestinal system. I would argue that it's a two-way highway, that my bowel absolutely affects how I think and how I feel and what I experience on an everyday basis. They are not distinct entities. It's all one body. If you think about it, we're actually very closed off systems. We're just connected. Our brain is connected to our bowels through nerves, through blood, through lymphatic tissue, everything. So the idea that your headspace only affects, it only goes one direction. It only goes from your head to your bowel. That's laughable. It's laughable that your bowels can't affect your brain, that they can't affect your brain chemistry, that they can't affect the way that you feel when you wake up in the morning. Even if you're just sad that you're in pain, that's still affecting your brain in a way that's negative. So if they're telling you that your brain, your anxiety, your depression, your whatever is causing you to have these really bad GI symptoms, or that's why they're getting worse with time, and you need to just figure this out, you need to just figure your head out. What a crock of bullshit. What a crock of bullshit. That is not the case. It works both ways. I'm not saying depression doesn't affect your bowel. I'm sure it does, but I'm sure your bowel can also affect your depression. It works both ways. This topic is really important to me because it affects me all the time. Getting painted with the brush of an anxious or depressive girl when I have neither chronic anxiety nor chronic depression, but still I get tossed out of offices saying, well, your issues with food are psychological. Well, look at my surgical history. Before I had any surgeries when I was in high school, I had no ostomy in high school, and I had horrible bowel disorders, right? I couldn't eat anything without feeling pain. I couldn't eat anything without bloating and distension. I couldn't eat anything without the fear of nausea, because it was very frequent in my life in high school. I just remember going to a doctor once who told me that it's common for girls to feel anxious around food, and that it was probably depression or anxiety that was causing me to have these feelings. That hurt my heart, because I walked out of that appointment with my mom being like, that was a gastroenterologist we talked to, right? They didn't even CT me. They didn't even do a blood panel. They didn't even try to help me from a scientific point of view. They just looked at me, saw that I was a young woman, and assumed that it was my anxiety and maybe depressive nature that led me to having issues with food. I was hurt. I was insulted. I felt ashamed. In that moment, I hated being a woman. He also told me that it might be my period cramping that was causing some of the gastrointestinal distress, and I might be confusing my uterus with my bowels. Believe me, they're very different. The pain is very different. So again, just this flippant nature, this flippant attitude that some doctors have. I'm not saying every doctor feels this way. I don't think every single doctor feels this way, but I've encountered many different physicians who are usually male. That's another generalization, but they're usually male, and they look at my case, and before they even want to address anything medically, they want to talk about the psychology and how I might, as a woman, be predisposed to issues with food just because I'm a woman. Yeah, I might be predisposed to it. We, again, as I've mentioned, live in a society where women are viewed very differently than men in the way that they're allowed to eat, or they're expected to eat, or they're expected to look, but that does not affect how my bowels move. My bowels move wrong. They move too slow, In some areas, they move too fast. In others, I have cramping, distension, bloating, proneness to ileus, volvulus, and a number of other very dangerous things that come along with having whatever it is that's wrong with me. Gastroparesis being just one of the things. My brain didn't cause that. My thinking about things didn't cause that. I was vomiting as a baby, as a toddler, after I ate. But yeah. This video is absolutely not an attack on doctors or any specific doctors that I've had. I've had some amazing physicians that have gotten me through really, really hard times and that have saved my life, quite literally. I mean, my surgeon that I just had most recently for my October surgery, she saved my life 3 times. So I owe her a debt of gratitude. I really do. So I'm not trying to demonize doctors in this video. They are quite literally the lifeblood of our society. We need them. We absolutely need them. Nurses as well, PAs, techs, everyone in the medical system is important and should be valued. But so should the patient. And so should the patient be respected. The patient should be looked at as someone who deserves help, deserves an open mind when they're explaining their symptoms, and deserves not to be pigeonholed and not to be stereotyped against. I realize that I come from a place of privilege, being in a Western society, being a white female, having a family that's able to afford things like doctors and insurance. I come from serious privilege. I'm acutely aware of that fact. But it doesn't undervalue the blatant stereotyping that's been committed against me just because of my reproductive organs. Assuming that my food anxiety is solely the product of being a woman and couldn't possibly come from having extreme dietary restrictions and extreme pain when I eat. I mean, what more perfect an example of a medical stereotype? That's damaging. It's damaging to people. Food is supposed to be good for us. It's supposed to make us happy. It's supposed to keep us healthy. It's supposed to keep us moving and energetic. Well, I personally know that on days when I eat less, I tend to feel better. That's just physiologically and psychologically. I can't help but wonder, when will doctors start taking that seriously? When will doctors start looking at the psychological effects of all these bowel diseases on people? You know, I read some interesting articles about something called the brain-bowel connection. And it's becoming more and more scientifically noted that brain chemistry is affected by what's going on in your bowel. I just wish it were more mainstream. I wish people would look at things like Crohn's and UC and gastroparesis, which is what I have, with not only a medical lens, but they should also look at it from a psychological standpoint. I was once hospitalized recently, very recently. It was right after Thanksgiving of this year. I was hospitalized with a pretty severe bowel blockage. So the blockage was like right at the end of where my stoma reaches my abdomen. The blockage wasn't too serious because they were able to irrigate the bowel with something called a catheter, and they actually got the food out. And I remember thinking there while I was laying in bed, watching them irrigate my stoma and watching all of these boiled mashed carrots coming out, because that's all I had eaten. That was my Thanksgiving meal, basically. It was just carrots and fish. And I was like, I ate that. I was such an idiot to have eaten that. And I was like crying in the hospital bed, not only because it was painful, like it's very painful to have a blockage, but it's also very painful to have your stoma irrigated. So both of those things are just painful and uncomfortable. But I felt personally saddened that I had been the cause of this pain. Now with time, I realized that I'm not actually the cause. You know, I didn't make my bowels this way. No one did. But I can't say that in the moment I was strong enough to have that perspective. In the moment, I felt really, really, really bad about myself. I thought that I was a hedonistic glutton who had eaten carrots because they were tasty and they were in front of me. That is so wrong. I should not feel that way. So please, I mean, if you guys have similar feelings to me about food, I really want to hear them, because I feel like sometimes when I get on here and I talk about like, yeah, this is what you can do to make your life better, and here are some tips that I have. I love developing new ways to make my life better from a physical standpoint. You know, how can I make traveling with my infusions easier? But I also feel like it's important for us to talk about the mental side of things. The mental cost, the burden that having a chronic disease puts on you. I'm positive that it's not just people with bowel disorders that have anxiety about normal, commonplace things that you just need to do to survive. Food happens to be my iteration of it, but I'm sure anyone with a chronic disease looks at life a lot differently than the average person without a chronic disease. I'm 23, and I still have to look at food like it's the enemy, and there's no end in sight for that. Most of what we do is reactive because there's no magic pill for gastroparesis. All this to say that you're not alone if you feel like food makes you sad or scared or upset or lonely or nervous. All these things are so normal for me in my life when I'm looking at a meal. I just want to know how many of you are out there, because it's a saddening and debilitating feeling looking at a plate and knowing that that could send you to the hospital or that could make your night agony. I just wanted to bring attention to this topic because I feel like it's something that people might not see. You can see a stoma, you can see the bag, but they don't see the burden it has on my head and on my brain and on the way I think and the way I feel and the way I interact with people. Chronic pain will always have a mental cost. So making sure that you feel comfortable talking about it with people, even if there isn't a cure for what you have, just talking about it, I've found to be helpful. You know, being careful about your food is something that becomes ingrained in you if you do it for enough years. I know a lot of people in my position with ostomies are also very young. So we're looking down the barrel of a life where food is terrifying. And I just want you guys to know that it's okay to feel sad sometimes. It's okay to feel like you're deprived. You can feel fulfilled in every other part of your life. But the one that will always be challenging for you might be food. It might be the process of sustaining your life force with nutriment. That's how I feel. I have a great life, but the idea that when I wake up, I'm gonna be battling my hunger all day and battling my cravings all day, it's exhausting. It really is. It's very hard to do every single day. And chronic disease does not take an off day. It does not give you a week of being good and blissfully healthy again. I don't remember the last time that I had no discomfort from eating something. I don't remember. I literally don't remember. I don't remember the last time I didn't look at something on my plate and think, is that okay for me? I just wanted to let you guys know that if you feel this way, you are not alone. I can't give you anything better than that though. I can't tell you it's gonna be fine. I can't tell you that you're not gonna have malnutrition. I can't tell you that you're not gonna have gum problems because you have so few nutrients that you need, but you can't get them any other way than vitamins or vitamin supplements. They're never as good as just eating food. And I remember back when I was a little kid and had a much more diversified diet, I felt better. Like my mind worked better. My bones felt better. My skin felt so much better. Yeah, I still had some pain when I ate, but I did eat more than I do now, more diversified food than I do now. Now I have such a monochromatic diet that it's a miracle I still have a beating heart. Sometimes I think it's shocking that I can still sustain life on the very few different types of things I eat. The doctors will tell you, well, you're deficient in vitamin B12. Well, you're deficient in this. Well, you're deficient in vitamin A. Oh gosh, here's a new vitamin D deficiency. Okay, what do I do about it? I don't know, because then I ask them, well, then what should I be eating? And they're like, well, have you tried adding this? Yes. Did it work for you? No, it made me really, really sick and vomit. Okay, well then don't eat that. Well then, how do you want me to fix the nutrient deficiency issue? If I can't eat new things, if you're telling me not to introduce new things because they're going to cause pain or cause a visit back to the ER or another surgery or another prolapse, then how am I supposed to feel comfortable eating them? You know, a lot of, like I said in my last video, a lot of ostomy diets or a lot of, even I'll extend this to chronic illness diets, are trial and error, because your diet has so much to do with how your body functions, just baseline. Well, that trial and error can sometimes land you in really bad places. I've had 5 stomas. They've all failed for different reasons. All 4 that I've had have failed for different reasons that were unfortunately beyond my control. But I can't help but wonder, when is it going to be because I ate something wrong? That blockage I had in November could have very easily been a new stoma. It could have very easily required a whole new surgery. And I will always live with that fear that I'll eat something one day that'll kill me. That'll make me scream, that'll make me cry, that'll make me wish I had never eaten anything. So, well, this was an emotional video, but I really did want to talk to you guys about this topic of food anxiety being correlated with a chronic illness or chronic nutrition. If you've been told by a doctor to kind of suck it up and that it'll get better with time, I've heard that too. And it's only gotten worse with time for me personally. I don't know your case. I don't know what a doctor has diagnosed you with. You may be very different from me. But if you have similar feelings of fear and terror when you look at a plate of food or you're walking in the grocery store and you see something you want to grab and you're like, I can't have that. I've been there. I'm there every day. We never get a day off. I really appreciate you guys letting me vent to you today. Please let me know if you like these more rant style videos. I was just feeling a type of way and I felt like it would be productive to share my feelings with you guys, because I cannot be the only one that sees this pattern of boxing people into psychological corners. And also, I can't be the only one who feels like food is terrifying sometimes, not for any other reason than it will just cause some people a lot of pain. So, with all that said, thank you guys for listening. It means the world to me that I get to come on here. I feel so lucky to just live in an era where I can connect to people within minutes, just over videos. You guys make me feel a lot less alone. So, I really appreciate that. And I will talk to you in my next video. Bye, guys. And whenever you guys are feeling upset, just remember that there's someone who always loves you. I feel like cat therapy is so productive. Okay, Jesus. Yeah, they don't always like it when I just pick them up.
What is it, girls? Hi. Hi. Freya and Valkyrie, my therapy pets.